Welcome to the America250PA Start Here, America Did podcast, telling the unique stories that make up the diverse fabric of Pennsylvania.
Hello and welcome to all of our listeners, new or returning, tuning in for another episode of Start Here, America Did. I am Cassandra Coleman, the Executive Director of America250PA, and today we're dedicating this episode to the trailblazing women of Pennsylvania, women who didn't just take steps forward, but paved new paths for generations to come. Today's episode is near and dear to my heart, not only because I have the opportunity to talk to women of importance, strength, and barrier-breaking tendencies, but also because I know what it's like to be in a position where the women of the world are watching. A position that is an opportunity to enforce to future generations that women can be everything that they dream of. At just 20 years old, I found myself stepping into the role of mayor of Exeter Borough, Pennsylvania. Now, you may be thinking, isn't 20 incredibly young to be a mayor? And yes, you'd be right. But my appointment actually set a new national record as the youngest female mayor serving at that time. But let me tell you, I didn't take that title lightly. Driven by a deep passion for my work and the people and residents of Exeter Borough, I poured my heart and soul into that role. And it seems that passion paid off as I was honored to be elected 2 more terms. Breaking that record was about more than just making history. It was about showing what can be achieved with determination and a commitment to serve, in addition to having a village of women that came before you cheering you on. In those years of service, I learned invaluable lessons about leadership, resilience, and the power of community. It was a period of immense growth, both personally and professionally for me, and it allowed me to understand the profound impact that one individual can make for a world watching. My journey from being one of the youngest serving female mayors to the Executive Director of America250PA is a testament to the belief that, as a woman, I am limitless, as are all of you. This episode aims to shine a light on similar stories of pioneering women from Pennsylvania who have made a significant contribution in so many fields. From politics to activism, the women featured in today's episode have not only excelled in their respective domains, but have also paved the way for others to follow, which is so important. Their stories are not just narratives of success, but are beacons of hope, courage, and determination. For our first segment today, I am thrilled and honored to be joined by a powerful Pennsylvania woman whose name is synonymous with resilience, leadership, and groundbreaking achievement, Senator Kim Ward. Senator Kim Ward is the first woman to serve as the Senate Pro Tem and Majority Leader in the Pennsylvania legislature. This is not the only first of Senator Ward's career. In fact, her electoral journey began with an unprecedented win in the 39th senatorial district in 2008, making Senator Ward the first woman to hold that seat. Throughout her career, Senator Ward has been a force for progress, spearheading powerful initiatives that seek to improve the lives of Pennsylvania citizens. Her leadership has been instrumental in driving economic development, enhancing the health and welfare of her constituents, and implementing initiatives that have bolstered Pennsylvania's infrastructure and services. Senator Ward's personal battle with breast cancer inspired groundbreaking health legislation, making Pennsylvania a leader in accessible cancer screenings. A champion for children's welfare and a staunch advocate for economic development, Senator Ward's legislative achievements and personal story of resilience resonate as a powerful testament to the immense impact that one individual can usher forward. As we celebrate Keystone First, Women Who Dared, Senator Kim Ward stands out as a quintessential example of courage, pioneering spirit, and unwavering commitment to service. Her series of firsts in the Pennsylvania legislature, from her historic election to her impactful tenure as Senate Pro Tem and Majority Leader, underscores not only her role as a trailblazer, but also her dedication to forging paths for future generations. Senator Ward's journey, marked by resilience in both personal and professional arenas, exemplifies the spirit of women who dare to challenge the status quo, break down those barriers, and create lasting change. So, Senator Ward, you are a Pennsylvania history maker and a true Keystone First. So we just want to thank you so much for being here today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
I want to first thank you for all of the support for America250PA. And I want to dive right in to your firsts. And I want you to tell me and share with our listeners your thoughts on what it means to you to be Pennsylvania's first woman to serve as President Pro Tem and Majority Leader, and how you believe that milestone has really influenced the landscape for women in politics and governance within the Commonwealth.
Well, I'm not sure that I influence, history, but as the first woman, it's very, 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 very important that I do a good job, right? Because I am now the first woman. So I need to make sure that everything I do is for people and to bring the women's aspect to the position. And when I first won Majority Leader, I didn't even think of the fact that I was a woman or that I was the first woman. And the same with the pro tem. I am a senator and I work for the people of Pennsylvania and I do my job. And I'll never forget when I walked out into the hallway after being elected majority leader and a reporter ran up and stuck his microphone in my face and said, "What's it like to be the first woman majority leader?" And I'm like, I'm a woman and I am a majority leader now. So, I just want to make sure that the trail that I leave is a positive one for women and for young women. And I love speaking with young women because I always tell them, you can do it. You can do whatever it is you want. You put your mind to it. You can do it. So don't let anyone tell you that you cannot. I cherish those moments that I get to speak with young women about the possibilities for their future.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? I mean, first of all, yes, as a female here in the Commonwealth, seeing the barriers that you're breaking down for other women here is amazing. And I think across the board, more women need to put their names on the ballot and get involved in their community and run for office. And I think we're seeing that, right? Both sides of the aisle, we're seeing that. And I think looking through America250PA and looking at the next generation of Pennsylvanians and looking for those females that are looking to break down those barriers like you did, how important do you see, those young women who are looking to get, whether it's in any industry, in any field across the Commonwealth, how important are role models and mentorship to those folks and those females across the Commonwealth?
Role models and mentorships, both of those things are very important assets that we can bring to young women. I hope that they look at all of the women around them in corporations and in government who are doing well. We have in the state Senate 17 women. That has to be a record. We have 9 Republicans and 8 Democrats. Mm-hmm. I do think what women bring to the table is a little bit different because, we don't really hear a lot as much these days about women's liberation. We're pretty liberated. But it took a while to get here. In my generation, we were still the moms, no matter how liberated we were. I can remember when I became a senator, I still had a son living at home, that I would, on Sundays, cook all day so that there would be food here all week and do laundry so that my husband and my son would have clean clothes. Now, that's not happening anymore here, of course, but we did have different barriers. When I first ran for my very first office, which was a supervisor position, I remember making dinner. I was a Republican. There weren't any Republicans. There weren't any women. And everybody was telling me, you can't win this. Why are you doing it? And I remember cooking dinner thinking my opponent is out knocking on doors. Mm-hmm. But I came in first. And I give credit to the women because I would knock on doors and the older women would say, I am voting for you because I couldn't do this. Mm-hmm. So from the beginning, it's been a different kind of battle. I used to tease my my one colleague, John Pippy. I'd say, so what were you doing yesterday on Mondays? Were you home? Were you washing Kathy's clothes? I used to tease him because, he's my friend and it was fun.
Well, and I think that's so important too. And Senator, with my background as a former borough mayor, I was 20 when I was sworn in. I was the youngest serving female mayor in the country and received a lot of the same questions and I think at that point too, my response would always be, would you be asking a male this if they were 20 or if they were 21? You're looking at the age, you're looking at the, my gender. But it was unfortunate at the time, almost, oh my goodness, 15, 17 years ago. But at that point too, you didn't see as many women putting their names on the ballot. You didn't see as many women, both on boards, corporate boards and boroughs and cities running for office. And I think the fact you had to kind of prove yourself to be there, but you did. And, then you learned and you rolled up your sleeves and you got stuff done. And I think, that's super, super important. And I think, folks getting, again, involved in local government and community boards, corporate boards is really, really important. And what I found to be really encouraging was that village of women behind me and in front of me, encouraging me and cheering me on. And on those days that were hard, knowing I had the folks there again to fall back on who would say, no, keep going, forge ahead, you can do this. How about for you? I'm sure there's been tough days, in your career. Who were mentors or folks that you looked up to that really, really were your cheerleaders and helped you get to the point where you are today?
So I came in through the Republican Party. I was a committee person. I was a county chairman. I was the Southwest Caucus chairman. So I had a team of friends and women that were the generation above me who had been working for years that gave everything to help me and gave everything to encourage me. And all of them are still my friend, I still consider them a core. But those women who were fighting when Republicans could never win, let alone a woman Republican winning, were very key, were very much the backbone of my success.
Well, and I think that the quote that says, alone we could do so little, but together we could do so much is so true, right? Especially for women, getting out there, supporting each other. So let's shift gears a little bit now that we know, again, how you got to, this position with legislative priorities and some of your achievements and through your work, which legislative priorities and achievements are you most proud of, especially those that have positively impacted women and families and communities across the Commonwealth?
So I have a few. One is the Ready to Succeed program that helped students who were middle income get a grant, because that helps families, because those students, their families made a little bit too much to get grants from the federal government and the grants that were given to low income folks. And they didn't make enough to pay for their education. That was a very good positive thing for middle income families. Also, I was the author of the task force that redid our child abuse laws in Pennsylvania. They put me on a committee. I was kind of new as chairman of a committee, and everyone focused on seniors, but I focused on children. And what I learned crossing the state doing those hearings was just heartbreaking. So we were able to update those child abuse laws in Pennsylvania. And of course, the last year, as you know, I had breast cancer, and being able to get bills across the desk and have the governor sign them, the first ones in the country that will really help women and really have an impact on the health of women, means everything to me. I feel like I got breast cancer and I was put in this position and I had to do something positive. And it's just a really, really humbling thing to have been able to sponsor and get that across the finish line.
Being able to pull that across the finish line for women all across this Commonwealth is just amazing. So again, thank you so much for your advocacy. And as we talk about and as we approach the 250th anniversary of the United States in 2026, and obviously Pennsylvania's, leading role, both 250 years ago and now currently. Talk to me a little bit about anything that jumps out at you as far as Pennsylvania women and folks that we should be highlighting and thinking about as we're celebrating 250 years.
Well, from Betsy Ross to today, where you have female leadership in the Senate, you have Representative Joanna McClinton, who is leading the House of Representatives. We have Supreme Court Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Deborah Todd. That may be first in the nation, the only state in the nation where all three chambers are led by females.
And that's just amazing to think about. So that makes us Pennsylvania proud for sure.
It is amazing. And we talk to each other, right? We don't dig our heels in and not talk with each other. We talk with each other.
Which is even more important.
Yeah, I just think that's one of the things that's different with women. Mm-hmm. I think we have a camaraderie. We don't maybe think about it every day on the surface, but we know we're all in this together. And it's good. It's very good.
How about your vision, Senator, as we are again approaching the 250th? What do you hope that the semi-quincentennial anniversary, not only here in the Commonwealth, but of course across the nation, what is your vision and what are your hopes that this anniversary can deliver and can achieve?
I would really hope that our nation was able to come together because we are very, very divided right now. That's happening on both sides of the aisle. I would like to see us to come back together and get back to the basics of protecting this nation's national security, protecting our people, making sure that there are jobs, that there are industries, and to stop the war on some of the things that we have in Pennsylvania, like our fossil fuels, so that our state can just bloom. We are in a position here in Pennsylvania, if we were permitted to let our natural resources take over, we would be unbelievably prosperous, and we would be able to our families would be able to take good care of themselves. There would be good paying jobs, and our nation would have the national security that we need. We have here in our Commonwealth the ability to save our nation, right? These natural resources that we have are national security. And I would love to see us all come together and make sure that our nation is safe and that we are together. We have things happening in our country now. We have people in the streets. We have protests everywhere. We had cities burning down. That's not the America that I want my grandchildren to grow up in. We all have free speech, and we should all have free speech, but we should be thinking of our nation. When we are separate and we are fighting like we do inside our own borders, I don't think that makes us look strong outside of our borders. I think it's very, very important that our nation and our people find a way to get back to this is America. We love America, and we are going to be number one in the world, and we're going to do what we need to do to keep us there.
Senator, I think at America250PA, that's what we're seeing across the aisle. Doesn't matter party affiliation. Folks are Pennsylvanians first, and they're proud to be Pennsylvanians, and they're proud of the communities, and they're proud of the contributions that Pennsylvania has made to the country. Again, one thing that we love traveling across the Commonwealth and seeing folks coming together who sometimes otherwise don't around the 250th anniversary, because they're putting differences aside for the pride of state, pride of country, pride of community. So, Senator, thank you so much for being on the show today and for sharing your journey and your thoughts with us. Your story is truly a testament to what can be achieved when we lead with courage and vision and unwavering dedication. And I am just honored to have talked with you today and look forward to continuing to work with you. So thank you again.
Thank you.
So as we conclude our conversation with Senator Kim Ward, it's evident that her journey and accomplishments extend far beyond her title and milestones. Her work reflects a deep commitment to public service and an enduring dedication to the betterment of Pennsylvania as a whole. Senator Ward's history-making tenure and the paths that she's paved for future leaders embody the essence of what Keystone First, Women Who Dared, aims to highlight: the courage to lead, the strength to persevere, and the goal to inspire change. Her leadership not only shapes the present, but ignites the potential for what is possible tomorrow. So for our next segment here today, I am so pleased to have the opportunity to speak with Loretta Claiborne, a woman from York, Pennsylvania, who has redefined the boundaries of possibility. Loretta Claiborne's story is of resilience, courage, and triumph over adversity. Born with intellectual disabilities and facing challenges that would have sidelined many, Loretta refused to be defined by the limitations others placed on her. Instead, she chose to redefine the possible. To capture the magnitude of Loretta's incredible athletic achievements, let's reflect on a title that speaks volumes. She was honored as the Special Olympics Athlete of the Quarter Century. Yes, you heard that right. She has competed in more than 26 marathons, showcasing not only her physical strength, but her unwavering spirit. And with this spirit, Loretta has been honored with an ESPY Award, the Excellence in Sports Performance Yearly Award, which celebrates the highest achievements in sports and athletic performance over the year. This accolade is a testament to her standing among the elite athletes of our time. Beyond her remarkable achievements in athletics, Loretta has become a formidable advocate for individuals with intellectual disabilities. Her advocacy has resonated within the corridors of global influence, from the United Nations to the White House, advocating for equality, acceptance, and the transformative potential of sports. Through her work, Loretta even reached a historical milestone. She is the first Special Olympics athlete elected to the Special Olympics International Board of Directors. Loretta's journey from being excluded from school sports due to her special education status to shaking hands with presidents exemplifies not just personal victories, but her significant role in championing societal change and breaking down barriers for women and individuals with disabilities alike. But perhaps what makes Loretta most inspiring is her message of love and determination. She lives by the belief that God made me the way I am for a reason, and has used her platform to spread a message of hope and resilience across the globe. Loretta Claiborne's life is a testament to the belief that with passion, perseverance, and a heart full of love, there are no limits to what can be achieved. So Loretta, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to our podcast today. We're honored to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
You have such a remarkable story and are such an accomplished Pennsylvanian. I honestly want to dive right in and want you to talk to me about your early life and growing up. You faced some significant obstacles. How did you discover your passion for running and competing? And when was that pivotal moment in your childhood that kind of helped shape you into the person you are today?
Well, it starts out that my mother, I was one of 7 children. She really had 9 who didn't make it into the world. And years later, she adopted one. So, she was a strong soul. Mm-hmm. I was treated like every other kid. When I was born, the doctor looked at her and said, Miss Claiborne, you might consider not having any more children. And she turned around and bit right back and says, let me tell you something. You let me take care of my children and you do your job.
There's a strong woman right there.
Right there. And of course, she had more children after that. Growing up, she didn't treat me no different than the other kids. She was really tough on my language. I remember my one sister saying something, and my mother asked her, where's so-and-so? And she says, hers at her house. And my mom turned around and she says, I don't send you to school to talk like that. Now, you're going to look at me and give me the correct answer. Well, she is at her house. Mm-hmm. And a couple weeks later, I tried, trying to be like my big sister, kind of idolizing your big sibling. I tried the same thing, and I felt her hand across my face. I learned real quick. And, of course, I didn't see it till I was 5. And, of course, that was later. I was a kid growing up trying to be like big sister. Mm-hmm. And she didn't let nobody mistreat me. And of course, she couldn't control when you're outside and you're in a housing project. We lived in a housing project. Mm-hmm. And I would go out and I would get little squabbles with other kids or, little fights. And, my sisters would be there to protect me, but they're not always there. Kids are kids and they're going to play with their friends. I'm going to go out and find a friend. But my mother didn't treat me no different, but she knew the hurdles were coming. Mm-hmm. And the hurdles came when I started school. I was held back in the first 3 grades. And I remember her saying to the authorities, they were having me tested. I would go to the hospital, had to put these things in your hair, like on your brain, and do all these tests and send you to counselors. And so the end of the one summer, they sent her to 2 different schools, Eastern State School and Hospital, which is now closed, and Laurelton State School and Hospital. So at the end of that summer, they called her into the school district office, and they said, Miss Claiborne, we send you to the finest schools for your daughter. Did you find the school? She says, oh, yeah. I found one right here in York, Pennsylvania, where she attends right now. She attends Ferguson Elementary School, and she's in the special ed class, and you got the class, and you have the teacher, and you're going to educate my child. She didn't back down for nobody. And she was a big woman, but she had a big voice, and she had a big heart, and she didn't take second fiddle or second chair to nobody. Mm-hmm. So the people said to her, well, you know, Loretta can't really learn in our school system. She says, well, I'll tell you what, she's going to learn at her own pace. And come on, Loretta, we got some work to do. Her dream was for me to graduate from William Penn High School, which I did. It wasn't easy. I had my challenges. But her dream was also to see that I got a diploma and not a certificate, which they used to issue to children with intellectual or, you know, special needs. They used to give them a certificate. But as time went by, I would fight my way through. And I remember in high school, I would go running with my brother Hank. We had a field out right behind our house in the project, and his friends used to go out and jump the hurdles. He was really popular, like my sister, and he was a phenomenal athlete. So I would follow around him, and he ran. So he would go out to your college, and he would run, and he would watch me, see me walk, run after the college. He'd run around the track 12 times. I would sit, and then I would run around a little bit, and then back home. So I knew my dream of becoming an athlete wasn't going to be true because I helped started the first track team that William Penn or York High had. We call it York High. Mm-hmm. And then there was no Title IX. Girls couldn't play basketball. You only played half-court basketball. You couldn't be on the track team. I didn't know it, but here I was starting something, a part of something that would materialize the year after I graduate, which was Title IX, that girls could have the same rights to be in a sport, or play a sport as a young man. And I didn't know what I was doing, but all I wanted to do was be on the track team. That was my dream, one of my dreams. And I just knew it was going to happen. And I got told by those girls, oh, we don't want no retards on our team. But that coach stood up and she said, and she really wasn't a coach. She was a school teacher, but she kind of was into sports. She was from Russia. And she took us girls under her wings, and she stood there one day at the track, and she says, Loretta has just as much right to be on this team as anyone, and she has more rights. It wasn't you who wanted the principal. It was Loretta. It wasn't you who wanted to get the kids, you know, the teachers to sign the petition. It was Loretta. It wasn't you who sold the candy bars to support student activity, which includes this little group you have. So I went to a shelter workshop. I went to a school to work program, and their hopes was for me to work the rest of my life at the workshop. And that's where I got introduced to Special Olympics. And that was the change in my life. My one dream did become a reality.
Loretta, if I can interrupt you, which it's amazing to listen to this story because one, you know, I wanted to ask you what age were you when you first started running with your brother, you know, behind your home at your college? How old were you?
Well, we are the Parkway Projects. I was like 12.
Right.
I hadn't turned 13. I was young. Yeah. And my brother, there was a field and the field's still there. We used to play softball there. It was just a field, and it's still there because I run out by the projects all the time. He would get the hurdles. He had permission from the school district in the summer because he was like the athlete. And they allowed him to go to small field, get the hurdles, and he'd set them up. And his buddies would come and they would jump the hurdles, and then they would run. And I would just follow them. And one day my mom says, you ain't got no business out there with them boys. And Hank turned around and says, she ain't bothering nobody. I could see her. He just took me under his wing, and I've been running ever since.
And that's amazing. And the story too, and the note that you mentioned about the coach who stood up for you and stood up for,
Cassandra.
and say that name again so the listeners can hear.
Her name was Mrs. Cassandra.
And, thinking through, especially today, and trying to promote inclusion and compassion and kindness, it's folks like that stand up for individuals like you, for individuals in general, and say, no, they belong here, he belongs here, she belongs here. And I'm sure that was a turning point in your life too, having somebody stand up for you and everything that you were bringing to the table, as you mentioned, right? You were there advocating to be included. You were there advocating for women in general, females in general, to be included. So I just think that's also, something to note is how important it is for folks, if they do see somebody being treated differently for whatever reason, to always lead with, that heart of compassion and kindness.
Well, I just spoke to a class. I got off on the call like a little after, it was like 11:30. I had a class from South Hills, Texas, and they were all students with intellectual and other challenges. Because I saw a young lady run by with a wheelchair, and I was telling the same thing to them. You are the new leaders, because when I mentioned the unified track team is students without and with intellectual or physical challenges, and they compete on the same team. And I was telling these students, just because you're somebody with a different ability, that doesn't mean that you cannot stand up for the rights of somebody else. And you can do it generally. And I picked out the two kids who were sitting in a row. I said, like the young man in the red sweater, put your hand up, and the young lady sitting beside you. Say you're walking down the hall and somebody makes a rude comment about her. You would kindly say, hey, I didn't think that was nice of you to do that. And if you didn't feel comfortable with that, you would go to your teacher and say, hey, we were walking down the hall and Jasmine was next to me, and this guy from the room next door to us said a rude comment to her. That's you advocating. That's you caring about her. I said, we all should be good advocates for each other. I said, my mother stood up for me. A teacher stood up for me. A coach stood up for you. Will possibly stand up for you on your track team. Or you could stand up for somebody who doesn't have the voice or the skill that you have.
Right. As you got into high school, you got your diploma, and then you had your experience with the Special Olympics. So tell our listeners that first experience with the Special Olympics and what it felt like to be now part of the Special Olympics community.
Well, my first experience with Special Olympics was I was going to school into a work program. So I'd go to school one week and go to a shelter workshop the next week with the hopes that the school would transition me into working at the workshop. And there was a counselor there, and he said to me, after a bad day, I got in a fight, and I said to him, I'm not going to come back here anymore. And I knew how tough my mom was, because she would make me came back anyway. So he called me in the office, and he says, you know what, Loretta, I think I have something you would like. And it's better than all those pills that you have to go to the nurse's office and take a couple of times a day. And I looked at him and rolled my eyes, if I could roll them. And I looked at Mr. Gilreath and I said, what is it? I said, I'm going home. He said, did you clock out yet? I said, yes, I did. I'm going home. He says, well, just sit down. I'm going to give you a second. You're mad. I know you're mad. Take a deep breath. He says, he comes to me and he has his paper. He says, I want you to take this home and give it to your mother. I think this will be better than all those pills you take in those bottles. And here was a paper, and the only thing I could read was Olympics. I didn't know the first word. And that was my start of Special Olympics. So I took the paper home. I took it out of my pocket. I showed my mother, because I knew how strict and tough she was. And she says, what's this? I said, I got it from the counselor. Oh. And she looked at it, and she was playing cards, and she looked at the other lady, and Miss Betty turned around and said, maybe you should let Loretta do that. She needs to have something that she's doing. Your other children are doing things and in clubs and running and drum corps. why don't you let Loretta do that? So I thought she threw the paper away. And here I am that morning, a Saturday morning, I hear her getting up, few choice words, get up, get out my house, and you go to that practice. And you come home from that practice, your work will be waiting for you, meaning my housework. Mm-hmm. I went to the practice and I came home and I started doing my house chores and hanging up clothes. And afterwards, I was going up to clean the bathrooms. We all had jobs. I came down. She said, how was Special Olympics? I said, I quit. She said, what did you say? She said, I don't allow that in my house. I said, I quit. She said, you ain't quit nothing until I tell you. And next Saturday, you're going to get up. I don't care how hot or how cold it is, what it's doing after. You go into that practice. You'll think twice before you take another free sandwich. What I tell you about going to that workshop and taking something free? Did I tell you don't get something free? They're going to ask for something, and guess what? Your behind's going to be out of my house every Saturday. Here I am 54 years later. I still participate in Special Olympics. I participate in sport. I just finished up ice skating, figure skating. I just finished up skiing. I'm not the best skier.
Wow.
But I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I love being outside. I love being with people. But my job is I'm the Chief Inspirational Officer for Special Olympics worldwide. And that's the person who goes out and brings enlightenment to the program, whether it's to start new programs like Africa. I have a speech coming up for them, for the whole continent, to get them to have more local programming and how important it is that it's just more than a medal, that it's just more than World Games, that what it offers to not only your athletes who participate, but their communities and families. Mm-hmm. I just finished serving on the board of directors, and I was on the board many years. I would serve so many years, come off, and they would ask me to come back on. So I served a long tenure on the International Board of Directors. I served on the board back in the 80s in Pennsylvania. And here is a person who I didn't want to talk to anybody because I didn't think I have a voice. Mm-hmm. But now my voice represents others. And not only people with intellectual disability, but going to Washington and talking at the Capitol and speaking to raise funds for that we can have unified athletic teams for regular ed students and those with different abilities. Mm-hmm. Including our athletes in the schools as being coaches, as being board members, as being homeowners. Include them to be their highest potential in their community. I just had a friend who bought a house, and he's a young man who has some intellectual disability, and now he works at the local hospital, and he owns his home. Mm-hmm. And now he's asking me, well, this is expensive, that's expensive. And so we can communicate with each other. We're tennis partners. And I'm helping them with the trail of buying a house, just giving them advice. I said, yeah, you have to pay your mortgage since you have a mortgage. He says, well, I have to pay property taxes. I says, well, if you have a mortgage, that means if you pay on your house every month, your property taxes are included. Mm-hmm. I said, but in my case, I don't have a mortgage on my home. So, I have to get up. I have to go pay my property taxes. They're due by April. And then in the summer, I'll get another tax. That's the school taxes. I have to pay them. And I have to make sure. And I said to him, make sure you keep your payments clean. If you're working, get somebody to shovel your snow because you can get a fine. And this is those little things. Mm-hmm. And who would ever thought I would be the person to grow up? I was always told that I wasn't going to be nothing, that I was going to be in the institution like everybody else who was in my shape, and not materialize to get back to my community.
Well, Loretta, they could not have been any more wrong, right? The Special Olympics could not have chosen a more perfect person to go out and inspire other folks and to tell this inspiring story, because you make us in the Commonwealth and here at America250PA, Pennsylvania proud. And also I saw that you were honored as the Special Olympics athlete of the quarter century and received an ESPY award for monumental achievements. I mean, that alone is remarkable. And talk to me a little bit about how that made you feel.
When they first nominated me for that, I knew Arthur Ashe because of, being African-American. And I grew up in the time when he was discriminated against. So I knew about that, but the Arthur Ashe Award, I already thought went to athletes who broke phenomenal records or did this or did that. And so when they asked me about receiving this award, I was kind of reluctant because I didn't think I fit in that at that table, put it that way. I didn't think I was worthy of a seat at that table. Obviously, I was. Self-trained. I never had the gadgets they have now. I trained myself to run a marathon, and I was only going to run one, me and my friend Bob Hollis. And he quit. He said he was done after the first one. And like 28, I thought it was 26, but now we're going through all this stuff that I had to have for marathons because there's a man writing a book. So you had to have all this documentation, and I had a flood in my house, and I lost a lot of the stuff due to the mold from the flooding in my house back in '07. So he's looking up all this stuff, and I'm finding stuff here and there. And here I found out I ran 28 marathons.
Wow.
But my goal was to run one.
Right.
But I got the bug, and I self-trained. There wasn't all the fancy dancy stuff like you have now, the diets and the shoes and the equipment. I trained, and I said, I'm going to try another one. And next thing you know, 28 later.
Wow.
And when I look at the ESPY award, it wasn't an award as an honorary award. It was the true ESPY. That meant you had to get out there and you had to break the barriers. They give them out now. They call them honor awards to athletes who do certain things, such as in Special Olympics. But I earned mine the right way, being a woman with intellectual and physical challenges to conquer the 26-mile marathon self-trained.
Right. Which is amazing. Are you still running today?
I run just for exercise because I'm 70 now and I have bone spurs and osteoarthritis, but I don't have no pain. So I use my running as a tool to get out and just exercise. I work out at the Y 3 days a week. I do many sports. I'm playing 3-on-3 basketball right now, tennis practice, just finished up, like I said, skiing, bowling, and downhill, bocce. I finished them up. So now my year's starting over again. I'll start out with my tennis, basketball. I don't do competitions in basketball. I'll do a local competition, but nothing. I don't travel with a team.
Right.
I do it for the whole exercise and the mental, to be out with other people, to get out. And that's a big problem in our communities is after COVID, people don't know how to get back and talk to people. Get out. I always tell them, get out and play some fun game. You don't have to be competitive. Don't be serious about it. Use it for the social activity. Help somebody else. So on my 3-on-3 team, I try to help the ones who can't get to the court. I know I have the running ability, and then I could pass the ball to John, who's standing next to the basket.
Right.
Shoot it, John. So I'm there as a teammate, but also as an advocate to make sure everybody gets a turn.
And that's amazing. And the fact you're still, again, active at 70 and 28 marathons. I can't imagine. I've never run one, I'll be honest. But I'm lucky if I could run a couple miles here or there. But just, your story, again, is just so amazing. And it's amazing to be listening to you. And you mentioned it earlier, the fact that you've been an advocate. It's taken you from the United Nations to the White House. And then you've molded into becoming that go-to person to help other folks, like your friend who now comes to you for advice and different things. We've seen that you live by the quote saying, God made me the way I am for a reason.
Yep. God is my strength. The Special Olympics is my joy. And we're all here for a reason.
Being able to help people struggling to find their place or struggling, within the community. Again, you've become that go-to. And it's just, again, it is such an inspiration and so amazing to listen to you today. And as we wrap up today's podcast, I ask you, what would you like to share with our listeners, especially those who may be facing their own challenges or seeking to find their place or make a difference in their community? What message of inspiration would you tell them?
My message of inspiration I would tell them is to look at themselves and don't put themselves down. A lot of times we all get into this, we all get in a rut, you don't feel as worthy, but it's okay to be you. And it's okay to be you, and you're a better person when you get up and you stand up for the right of somebody else. And especially us women, I just hear all the time like how women still don't make the same as men. So we have to be advocates, and we have to be advocates in all ways as women. And yes, young men too. I'm not excluding you because of what I just said, but everyone should be an advocate for each other. And once you take care of your community or stand up for the right of something in your community would be better off.
And I think that is a wonderful message to share. Be your own best advocate, lead with kindness, be there for others to support and rally behind. And, Loretta, it has been an absolute honor to have you on our podcast today. And I want to thank you for sharing your remarkable story with us and for reminding us all of the strength and the beauty of the human spirit. Thanks again.
And thank you. Bye.
So as we wrap up this deeply inspiring segment with Loretta Claiborne, I am reminded of the sheer power of the human spirit to overcome, to excel, and to inspire. Loretta's journey is a testament to what is possible when we refuse to be defined by the limitations that others may place on us. Her accomplishments as an athlete, her groundbreaking role as a leader, and her impactful advocacy work have not only paved the way for individuals with disabilities, but have also carved out a significant space for women in areas once dominated by barriers and exclusion. Loretta Claiborne's story is a powerful reminder that with passion, perseverance, and again, a heart full of love, there are truly no limits to what can be achieved. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode as much as I have. As we draw this episode to a close, I am filled with a profound sense of pride and inspiration. Today, I've had the honor of sharing my own milestones, as well as delving into the lives of two phenomenal Pennsylvania women, Senator Kim Ward and Loretta Claiborne. Their stories, though different and uniquely their own, are barrier-breaking narratives that grant a better future for tomorrow's generation. Today's journeys remind us of the incredible resilience and boundless potential that lie within each of us, especially when we dare to challenge the status quo and advocate for change. Senator Ward's groundbreaking career in Pennsylvania's legislature and her dedication to the public sets a new standard for what Pennsylvania women in leadership can accomplish. Loretta Claiborne's remarkable achievements in athletics and her tireless advocacy for the rights and recognition of individuals with disabilities have rewritten the narrative on what it means to be defined not by limitations, but by the strength of the human spirit. This episode, dedicated to the trailblazing women of Pennsylvania, serves as a testament to the fact that women have not only taken steps forward, but have carved new paths for those who follow. It's a reminder that our potential is limitless, our resilience is unbreakable, and our capacity for change is boundless. To our listeners, I hope today's stories have ignited a spark within you. This is Cassandra Coleman wishing you the courage to pursue your dreams, the strength to overcome any obstacles, and the determination to leave your mark on the world. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Until next time, remember to start here, as America did, and continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. So goodbye for now, and here's to the trailblazers, past, present, and future, who light our way forward. And to learn more about America250PA and our programs, projects, and events across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, go to America250PA.org.
This has been the America250PA Start Here, America Did podcast, produced by Commonwealth Media Services. Stay tuned for more epic Pennsylvania stories at America250PA.org.